Hey guys, we just got back from The Lighthouse, which we saw at 12 p.m., midday. And I gotta say, whoa.
What the?
What a descent into absolute madness. And I freaking loved it. This is an A24 film, so you really got to prepare yourself. This is not a mainstream moviegoer audience film. If you know A24, they put out some good horrors, some bad horrors, some indie type artsy fartsy stuff, and some really good stuff. It's kind of hit or miss sometimes with them. They did Hereditary, which I really liked. Upon second watching, my rating goes up on Hereditary. Yeah. They've done The Witch. Joe, this is from the director, I think, of The Witch, and so I couldn't wait to see it. We had our choice of Black and Blue, Maleficent,
Countdown,
Countdown,
oh no,
and
3
some
hours.
Jojo Rabbit. But I just really wanted to see something that is just gonna immerse myself and just make me lose myself, and that's what this film did. And for it to be able to do it when I just woke up on a YouTuber schedule and just make me just fully invested in the story, the atmosphere was so freaking thick. It's not a film for everybody, but if you like, madness and amazing performances, you're going to like this film. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to these guys. And what did you guys think of the film?
I guess it's kind of like you said. I'm more mainstream, and like these, I did enjoy it, but it was just too much for me. The visuals, especially. So,
I like it when films are too much for myself to handle because you have to think about it and chew on it later on. I don't like disposable films. I do like disposable films.
This is another one you have to rewatch for sure.
Yeah, you can get enjoyment out of it if you rewatch it again. But okay, so it's too much for you. You thought
it was still good, but like there was a big chunk that kind of lost me.
Okay. What about you, Alex?
This was a real weird. It's like a really cool movie. It's kind of hard to describe because there's scenes of this movie that I absolutely loved. There's scenes that that made sense in the movie, but I didn't like them because there's parts you're not supposed to necessarily like them.
I know what you're saying.
But it fits in the movie, and you're like, okay, but it was a wild ride, and the pacing
We're talking a lot in spoilers.
Yeah, there's like some weird pacing things where. Like the first hour of the movie, it's like, this movie is really cool. And then we shift gears and different stuff starts happening.
And that's where it started losing me.
Different stuff. And then we go back to funniness. And it's just, this movie is insane. This is a crazy-ass movie.
I think it was all on purpose, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I think y'all are wrong. This is amazing. I mean, you did like it. You just had some problems with it. But I was along for the ride, and why I was along for the ride is I gotta say the amazing score right away. There's like the horn, the Lighthouse horn. The soundtrack is haunting. It really transports you into this isolated island, and it's almost otherworldly. Sailor lore, sea lore. Just it's really good, the soundtrack, but even with the soundtrack, the visuals are also extremely well done. It is in 4:3. You don't expect that. You're used to this HD, wide type of thing. And no, it's in 4:3, and it's not that distracting. I hate that, honestly, sometimes when filmmakers do that. But because this one is in black and white, it kind of blends well with everything, and you don't really feel like all these bars are distracting me. I didn't notice it really at all. And when things are dirty, and when there's blood, and when there's muck, and when there's dirt and water and stagnant air, you could just see everything so well, even though it's in black and white, and it gives it kind of an otherworldly look. So I gotta praise the soundtrack, I gotta praise the visuals, but above all else, I think the performances in this film deserve to be seen. My God, Robert Pattinson is good, but my God, Willem Dafoe in this film, I am 100% convinced that he is who he is in this film. It is a 10 out of 10 performance, and I think that this kind of shit, just completely believing his character and immersing me, and just that's Oscar worthy for me. I can't praise him enough.
Yeah, like Willem Dafoe just killed it. I mean, he typically does. Like this is one of those roles. Actor. And he just the facial hair was on like everything about this movie.
Everything about him, yeah.
Well, because you mentioned
the way he talks.
Yeah, and then
it's very difficult to understand.
Oh, it took me a little bit, like, because the first few minutes I was almost frustrated. He was talking. He's like, I don't understand half of what he's saying.
It's all this like sailor speak and old timiness.
But you acclimate to it, and then you're like, okay. At the end of the movie, I understand everything that he's saying, and this all makes sense to me. So,
well, for me, it was a little harder because I guess I'm a little hard of hearing sometimes. What I wanted to come over and ask you, what did you just say? But no, I didn't want to ruin it. And honestly, you can miss a few things that he's saying, but you're still fully immersed in it. If I had this film, I would watch it with subtitles on.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but you felt that way too, Joe?
There's a couple of things that I missed.
A little hard to understand sometimes. But that doesn't mean the sound design's not good, because the sound design is fantastic. It really accentuates what's happening on screen. Robert Pattinson, that's not to downplay Robert's performance, because it is really good. It's just Willem Dafoe is in a league of his own here. He's really fantastic, and Robert's performance is fully believable too. And if you like descents into madness, I don't want to say much. Okay, because I want you to experience this film without knowing what kind of film genre it is, other than two guys go to a island with Lighthouse, and they're isolated and they start to go mad, because that's kind of in the trailer in a sense. So, okay, so with all that, with great performances, with great soundtrack, with great cinematography, with great direction. And a fascinating story that you don't often really see in mainstream films. I absolutely love this film. And yes, I will admit that there are pacing issues.
Well, I don't even know if when I was describing the change in pace, I don't even think it was like a detriment to the film. It's almost like a warning. It's because
I think it was just there for like kind of shock factor for me. I was like, okay, I didn't need that, but sure, if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, the story kind of meanders a little bit, and there's faster parts of the story on purpose, and there's much slower. And it took me a little while. Like, once there's a drastic change of pace in the movie, I was sitting there going like, all right, I kind of like the other part. But then it won me over, and I enjoyed some of the slower parts.
I do think there's about 20 minutes of the film. They drink, as sailors often do, and as people isolated often do, to help them pass the time. And there's lots of those segments, just really fantastic performances as these two men, cope with isolation and bond in their own ways. It's just fascinating to watch, and so awesome that these two actors are doing their thing and taking a little bit of a risk. And but there was all these scenes having to do with alcohol, and I think there was one too many scene, because I can actually pick out right where I can just remove this, and we go from laughing to laughing, and then a window breaks, and it's like I would have picked it up from here to here, and then I think that it would have been perfect. But I think it's probably there to just there's a relentlessness, I think, that the film is probably trying to do in that sense. And then, as we get deeper into the third act, we're going, it's quite interesting in the third act. And there are moments in it that Alex hit perfectly. It's like, I understand why it's there. It is within universe why it's there. It makes sense why it's there. But me personally, I don't know if I like that.
That's exactly how I felt.
But my feelings are irrelevant, right? Unless I come and I talk to you about the film and tell you what my personal preferences are and how I saw the film.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in spoilers. But honestly, I don't really want to say anything more other than this film it's indie. It's a lot to take in. It's madness, and it is some of the best performances that I have seen, and I fucking loved it. So I would recommend you go out and see it. But let me go to you guys first. What are your ratings
For me, I would actually give this a 6. Like, I did enjoy it. It's something new.
Triggered!
But let me finish.
Damn it, Joe!
I did enjoy it. It's above average for me. The visuals were great. Some of them were kind of like what we were talking about, like just there for me for shock factor. But the acting, I loved. It's solely on these two guys, and these guys did an amazing job, which I loved. The soundtrack was great. The horn, that drove me into madness, so that immersed me in this world.
And you're describing a 6. You're describing it slightly, but shut up, Joe.
Like I said, I might have to watch it again, but this is a very interesting watch. You need to watch it. I would recommend it.
Okay, Alex?
You don't want to. You want an outburst?
No,
real quick?
Joe is entitled to his opinion, and people tell him, Joe, don't.
You don't
try
get
to
it.
convince your friends.
I got it.
You don't
I just
get it,
didn't
Joe.
want it.
No, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You just don't get it.
No,
it.
What you just described next to your slightly above average film was a much better film.
Well,
so I don't really. Why does it lose 4 points?
I'll talk to you in spoilers.
He egged me on. All right. Anyway, go.
I liked it. I liked it a little bit better than you did. I had some of the problems that you did as far as like the story. The story, it is a descent into madness, but we went a little bit too far for me. That I think that they kind of overstepped a touch in a couple different places. And that, I mean, I was in, like, swallowed the hook. I was into this film until we get to the third act, and then it's like, okay, this is great, and then we kind of skip a couple steps to kind of get me. I don't know if they cut some time out of the film where there were some scenes that kind of.
That's what it kind of felt like.
Because we just went a little bit crazier to a lot of it crazier to a lot of it crazier, and it was just too much. And I think that had they tightened up that ending a little bit by maybe by fleshing things out a little bit more, because we'll talk about it in spoilers, but there's some scenes you're like, whoa, where the hell did this come from? And it was kind of strange. The performance is spot on.
It mixes a lot of different things together.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, and I think this.
But you wish that it would kind of choose one and roll with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was a beautiful movie. I think that the sound was good. Calling it a soundtrack's kind of rough because it's not a lot of music playing. You get a little bit of, but there's most of the things that like kind of bring you in.
It blends very well into the film. Probably why.
It's the atmospheric things that I think are what make this thing good.
Yeah, and I think they did a great choice of doing this black and white.
Yeah, you get to see some.
Oh
things.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked otherwise.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think I liked it a little bit better than you. I'm gonna give this one an 8.
Okay. Wow. Excellent. Yay! Alex likes something, and it's an indie fartsy film, guys.
Farts.
There's lots of farts. Okay, great.
Fart humor, yeah.
Willem Dafoe is so great in this film. Even his farts are Oscar worthy. You could take that quote, Rotten Tomatoes, if you want. They don't put me on.
No.
All right, guys. For this, I will say my rating. There are moments in this film where it's a 10 out of 10. There are moments in this film where it probably drops to like an 8 or a 7. But it sort of fluctuates between these, and and even though it didn't go personally where I wanted it to go, I was still along for the journey, and because it was so well executed and so well acted, and it got its point across, I appreciated it. And yeah, I want some moments to be expanded upon rather than other moments, but it's one of those films that I'm so happy I went out and saw, and I got it in my repertoire back there, and it's one of the better, in my opinion, descent into madness types of films, especially with regard to sailors and lore and lighthouse keepers and isolation and dealing with trauma and feelings, and it's just
isolation.
Great. So I'm gonna go with. It could get a 10, but I'm not giving it a 10. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It's very, very easily an 8 out of 10 for one decision. We'll talk about it in spoilers, but I think overall, because it was able to immerse me like this at 12, if I was watching this by myself, at, midnight and just, really in the mood for it. Granted, this is not a scary film, okay? This is a
mystery.
Mind mystery kind of thing. So don't get it does kind of position itself as a horror film, but no, it's more of an exploration film, okay? So 9 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to know spoilers, I recommend, please watch this film. It's actually I know this video is not going to get very many views because I looked and see if it was playing. It's not playing anymore, at least not in this area. It was like, this is like a few showings. Yeah. So wait until it gets on VOD. If it's in your area, look up to see if it's in your area and go out and see this one if you like film, if you like great performances, and if you're into sailors and shit like that. All right, guys, see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Stick around for spoilers. Welcome to the spoiler section. Please, please, if you haven't seen the film, don't be watching this right now.
Don't ruin it for yourself.
Rewatch this video and let's talk about it here. So, I loved it. So you got these two gentlemen. It's the changing of the guard. They're going to be isolated for only 4 weeks. I was like, 4 weeks is not a problem.
But the other guy died.
Mm-hmm. Right? So then these two leave, and they replace them. And at first, you got Willem Dafoe, and you're thinking, this is just an old man, old captain that can no longer go to sea. So he picks up, being a lighthouse keeper, and he's got his soliloquies and his ways and his things and his sayings and how to do things. But he says, the light is mine. That shift is mine. We're supposed to alternate by regulation. No, it's mine, and you're like, okay, something's going on here.
Yeah.
And
I like that, the mystery, trying to piece together clues.
Yeah, and he's just working, and he's doing his work, and then, the old man is telling him, don't do that, that's bad luck, and the way he says it and his performance, it just resonates with you, and you're like, oh, okay, I definitely shouldn't do that. Always toast, right? It's bad luck to not toast. It's bad luck to kill a seagull and things like that. Well, as things start to unravel, and as the seagull is constantly pestering Robert Pattinson's character, what was his name? Well, he has two names because he has a secret backstory. So it's like, so he says, this seagull is constantly harassing him. And at one point, he just can't handle this seagull. Is constantly barking at him and shit. He just fucking grabs this thing and just like beats the shit out of it.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But what I thought was gonna happen is like, the seagulls are sailors' souls. It's like maybe he's gonna try to tell him something because he kept pestering him. I was like, hey, maybe you need to come this way.
That's what I whispered.
That's what I was like. Oh, there's something going on.
I was like,
and he's like, no, fuck you, seagull. I was like, okay, I guess that didn't happen.
Maybe the seagull is not actually being a fucking bastard to him. Maybe the seagull is the soul of the previous sailor that went crazy on this island that you learn about later on. He's trying to warn him in a certain way. But, that's neither here or there. You can interpret it that, or you could just say, no, the seagull's a fucking asshole, but don't kill seagulls because, it's bad omen. So he picks up the seagull, and, he just loses it because he's so, he's got all this pent-up aggression because this old man is telling him what to do. It seems unfair.
He's at his breaking point.
He's at his breaking point.
He's doing all these chores.
He gets all the best jobs, and he gets all the shitty jobs, and it sucks. So he beats the fuck out of this seagull, and then that's when the wind changes. It goes from, westerly nice wind to a northerly stormy wind. But there are other things happening before that point. Every night, Willem Dafoe's character goes up into the lighthouse, and he gets fucking naked, and he's like staring into the light.
Get toasty, son.
He's like
embracing the rays.
Furiously masturbating. There's like whispering noises, and at one point, our character goes and looks and see what's up there, and there's some splooge or something.
Yeah, it was from the tentacles.
Hold on. The first one was, I think, just some ejaculation.
That's what he was doing.
Because he was masturbating or having sex or whatever it was with this creature, and that stuff had me really intrigued because I was like, "Oh shit, is this a Cthulhu?"
Yeah.
Because the sea and the creatures and Cthulhu, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Because at one point, then he sees a tentacle, and then even more goopy stuff come down, and that's like the goopy from the tentacle.
Yeah.
And but you're wondering, is he actually seeing this stuff, or is he descending into madness?
He hallucinates in like the first 10 minutes of the film. He walks out on the beach and he sees logs floating in. He used to be a logger, and so he sees a floating body in. It's not even the ocean. What you see, he's walking into what looks like a river, and he's hallucinating this entire scene at the very beginning of the film, and so there's hallucinations every single step of the way, and so this isn't. I mean, him seeing tentacles,
unreliable, narrator,
very unreliable. So it's like you don't know if any of this is true because this guy's literally seeing ghosts. He's seeing logs. He's seeing all sorts of weird things.
He sees a siren.
Oh, and it's siren.
And so when he goes and with the logs and the body, and that signifies, and you see this a few times, is he claims that he's somebody else. His actual name is Tommy something, which is the same name in the Lighthouse Keeper, just with different last names. And, he basically hated his foreman and this guy that he's on his job with. And he thinks about murdering him with an axe. With the back of his head, he's talking about it would just be one swipe. But he doesn't do it, but they lose their footing. And he loses his footing, and he calls out to him. And instead of helping him, he just stands there and lets him, fall with the logs and get lost into the logs. And so he basically killed a guy, murdered him. And so he's constantly running. And, and he tells this. He tells this story because he starts to trust Willem Dafoe's character, even though there's something weird going on, he thinks. But they get drunk together. He doesn't want to drink. He's like, I'm not a drinker. I don't drink. But then, as things get out of control.
The madness started happening, drinking more.
Exactly. He starts to take up alcohol again, and you're wondering if this is an allusion to it, whether he was an alcoholic in his past, and now that he's drinking, all these scenes are becoming more intense and all this stuff is happening, or whether it's a part of that, the sailor lore. The only way to stave off the madness is to be drinking and stuff like that. But it all mixes together in a really interesting and satisfying way. And he also has encounters with a friggin' mermaid?
Yeah.
There's a lot of masturbating in this film.
Yeah.
They're there for like 14 weeks, and then Robert Pattinson is like
4 weeks, not 14.
Oh, 4 weeks. 4 weeks. My bad. So he's there with the statue. Then he gets these hallucinations that he's having sex with the siren, and then you see vagina.
You see some mermaid pussy in this film.
Yes.
It's very weird.
This is like, what is going on here?
And you see him sort of having sex with this mermaid, and it turns out, he is just falling into madness, and he's like masturbating furious. So there's lots of male masturbation in this.
Be warned.
But and then he accidentally breaks this little totem, this totem of this mermaid that he was using in order to fantasize about a real mermaid. And you just wonder, it's like, is Willem Dafoe's character
an illusion,
worshiping Cthulhu and crazy, and when other little lighthouse boys come to his island, he helps drive them insane? That's kind of one storyline. And he finds this little totem hidden in his bed, and that fits that storyline. Or is it really, Robert Pattinson's character running from the law? He had done something really bad that he hasn't really dealt with, and when he becomes isolated, he starts to deal with it. He starts to drink, go back to his old ways, and hallucinates, and becomes aggressive towards this old man who is who is what he says he is, and starts to become abusive to him, and they fight. But they bond too. They bond, and they laugh, and they sing, and they
romance.
Punch each other. At one point, they're so drunk that they're dancing furiously, right? And I like Willem Dafoe's dance moves, and then Robert's dance moves is going crazy. They get real tired. So then the next scene, they're like slow dancing. And the old man is singing a nice tune. It's great to hear, but you could see the way they're holding each other, that they're all probably in their own little worlds, thinking about women. The old man had a previous wife. Robert wants to,
so he says,
he's thinking of women and the mermaids and stuff. And at one point, it looked like they're gonna kiss, but then they put their dukes up, and then they just start fighting. But it's like friendly fighting almost. Well, not friendly fighting, but it's not serious like I'm gonna kill you fighting. It's just men bonding by punching each other, and so they fall on the ground together.
Light sparring, yes.
Yeah, they're sparring. Yeah. You know, you like Neo says, or not Neo, the other guy who says to Neo, "You don't know a man until you fight him," or something like that, in the Matrix film. So anyway, they fall on each other. And they're just tired, and then that's when Robert's like, I trust you. I'm Thomas. And he's like, no, I'm Thomas. Because he told him, he's like, oh, man, I don't even really know your name. And he's like, my name is Thomas, Tom. You can call me Tom. He's like, I'm Tom. And it's like, no, I'm Tom. And it's a little funny thing. There's surprisingly a little humor here and there. The old man constantly farting, the way they talk to each other, the genuine bonding. And then he's like, no, I have a secret, and I feel like I can tell you. And he's like, don't spill the beans.
Don't spill your beans.
Don't spill your beans on me. You misunderstand me. I don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. But he tells him, and once he spills the beans, the film goes. Yeah, and there's like a washing, and you can feel a washing over your body, and when you're watching the film, and you're like, oh, now we're going on into madness.
This is where the film was amazing up until this point, and then it was just pretty good.
Yes, I will agree with that, but I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than Alex, and Alex enjoyed it a little bit more than Other Joe. I really wanted it to play more with Cthulhu. I wanted it to play more with monsters and otherworldliness, but what it does is it restrains itself. It keeps itself restrained with that. There are elements of that. There are elements of sirens and mermaids, and there are elements of just straight up losing your mind and suffering with this huge weight on your shoulders of having murdered a man in real life and not being able to deal with it and drinking yourself to forget about it, and realistic takes on isolationism and going crazy, right? But they blend it all together, and it ultimately culminates in him losing his shit against the old man, and the old man is like, that's it, or he finds his book. That's what it was. And he reads segments where the old man is basically shitting on him and saying, I'm a dock his pay. He was drinking on the job, even though
violent outbursts,
even though the old man was encouraging some of this too. So you're like, what the fuck? Fuck this guy, right? But because it's so blended, you have no idea whether, half of it is true and half of it is not. It's probably likely a mixture of the both. And so he's like, fuck this. And he starts fighting, and the old man is like, man, he gets in his face. The old man taunts him, which is a very bad idea because Robert is clearly stronger than him. And he basically talks shit to him. Robert loses it, and he starts punching him. And when he gets him on the ground, at first he dreams that it's the mermaid that he's punching, and he's on top of. Yeah, so and I was like, oh, no, I don't want to see no rape scene or nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you thought might happen?
That's what I thought. I was like, wait, no, that's Willem Dafoe. And then it starts getting sexual. I was like, No,
I don't want to see this.
Please don't.
But thank God, it goes to something else where, he sees Willem Dafoe as this Poseidon tentacle monster, because he has all these things that he was seeing before, and he's just mixing them in his head. In the previous scene, it was a monster having sex with William, but in this one, William is the monster. You see how all the elements are blended so perfectly, and so he beats the fuck out of him. You think he kills him, but no, you could see the old man is still moving around.
Yeah, he's like, stop it, you're killing me.
Yeah. He's sort of rocking himself.
Yeah, he's sobbing on the ground.
Sobbing and rocking himself. And then here's where it goes.
This is where it gets like real weird, like BDSM stuff. Where he's like,
I don't like BDSM stuff. I don't like watching it. I'm not into that. It's cool if other people are into it, but I'm not into it. And so when I see it on screen, I'm like, oh man, I was hoping you could use this time for something else.
It was so awkward because he's on the ground, he's sobbing, and he's like, I want you to bark like a dog.
Yeah.
And then he won't do it, and then it's a bad bark, and he's like, no, I want you to really bark like a dog.
And he stands over him, and he's dominating him.
And then he puts a leash on him and makes him walk around the building.
Well, at first he comes out of the house, and I'm like, Okay, fine, and killed him. He just got him to bark like a dog and killed him. That's where I wanted it. Because how does a dog tie in? Well, that's how he was taunting the old man. He's like, that foreman, he was right. You are a dog. So that's why he's telling him bark. But then you're right. He comes out of the house.
And he got him on a leash. And he walks him all the way around and then up this little hill. And he's like, get in this hole that we dug.
Where you belong.
You belong in there. This is going to be your grave. And he starts
your home.
Burying him alive. It's like, this scene is real weird. Like, you kind of jumped the shark a little bit because they went so far out of what, like, the scene and the tone that they had created that it was shocking. It's like, I don't know.
I know you're going to lose a lot of audience. And they lost these two. And that was the moment that I said that I didn't really particularly like the way they approached it, but I was along for the ride because, he's crazy, he's going on, it's about domination for him, and so he threw the old dude in there, and the old dude is cursing him basically. He's like, you're going to get yours. You want to know what's in the light? At first I think he's like begging for his life. Like, I'll take you to the light or you don't, but no, he's just still covering him. He's like, you know what? You're going to be punished. The light is going to punish you or something like that, or Poseidon's going to punish, whatever. His old-timey sailor ways.
Yeah.
And then but then Robert realizes, oh, shit, that's right. So he grabs him, and he has the keys. I thought maybe he was going to snap out of it and try to save him, but no. It appears as if Willem Dafoe's character's dead, grabs the keys off him.
He was gone by that point.
Yeah. Goes inside. And he's walking up, and then he's like, well, no, first I need a cigarette, and then he goes back into the house. And Willem Dafoe is back, and I didn't hear what he say. That's one of these things where it's like, I need subtitles. It's like, I'm fine.
The light is
mine.
Light
is mine.
Oh, the light is mine. And then he stabs him with an axe right in his shoulder, but he missed his vitals. And then
should have gone for the head.
Should have gone for the head. Right. So he grabs him, knocks him out, and takes the axe. Bam! One fell swoop.
Yep.
Right in the head. Blood splatters on him, goes everywhere. But Robert is gone at this point. So he's like expressionless and stuff as these things are happening. And he's just in insanity land, which I was fascinating.
Yeah, they've been drinking lamp oil mixed with honey. Yeah. Because they're out of provisions and like they're just drinking chemicals right now.
They're going crazy. So but he's starting to suffer the effects of being axed. And he's crawling up there just to see, I want to see this light. What is all this light all about? Unlocks it. And it's so cool. I love this part. You got the spinning light. And this isn't real light. This is the way these things look. But because it was hidden the whole time from you, when it's finally in the glory, it's like it does look sci-fi. It does look otherworldly, but none of it is. It's an actual sort of lighthouse, right? And you think, wow, at that time, that must have looked alien. That must have looked interesting to them. Or it might have just been the atmosphere of this film, right? But then it stops on its own, and you're like, oh, shit, okay, now there's something going on.
Maybe the timer stopped. You don't know.
And then the door of the light opens, right? And so that, and Robert is looking at it, and, he puts his hand towards it. And basically...
we see his vinegar strokes. It's gross.
You don't ever really get to see, what he sees, but... He fully embraces his madness at that point. Whether he sees something and there was nothing there, and it's just light, and he laughs about it.
I think he just got shocked.
He didn't touch anything, Joe. He was just going for it.
I thought he did.
Whether he just lost his shit because there was nothing there, or whether he's really just embracing the madness and now he's at one. But no, the light kind of punishes him. Either the light punishes him or he slips on his own and he falls
all the way down.
It's a very long fall sequence because it's a really long spiral staircase. He just continues to tumble all the way down.
I was hoping we'd see it all. Yeah. I mean, we see most of it. But so then he falls. But then very oddly, not going ambiguous because, how a lot of things work both ways. But then oddly, instead of, falling out of the house, it cuts immediately to a scene where he's
completely
on some
naked,
rocks.
on the rocks.
Completely naked. He's beat the fuck up, near dead. And seagulls are ripping his guts out.
That
fits into the mythology thing where they're talking about mermaids and that kind of stuff happened.
But how did he
but now that I think about it again, that scene, because it's so detached from the rest and you think, oh, that doesn't make any sense, that could be happening in his head. He really could have just fallen out and then slightly out of the door, dying and slowly fading away. And he's hallucinating the fact that, he's being punished for all this stuff. Fucking, that's what I really like. Great, fantastic, 9 out of 10. Did I give it a rating of 9 out of 10? Did I remember to do that shit?
Yeah, you did. There's also this one part where William Dafoe's character is talking to Robert. He's like, this is all in your head. Maybe you're still over there cutting wood, and you're just envisioning all this. I was like, is he?
Well, yeah, because Willem Dafoe in this movie is constantly changing his story. They get drunk. He's like, yeah, I was a general. And the next time they get drunk a week later, he's like,
oh, my leg is fine.
My leg, I have scurvy. I got scurvy. He's like, I thought you broke your leg.
And you broke it.
And so there's all this inconsistencies. And so it's like, is Robert imagining all this
And then
stuff?
there's one scene where you see William Dafoe's like chasing with an axe and like smashes up a boat because William wants to, or Robert wants to leave the island. But then when they get in the house, he's like, you smashed up the boat, and we've been here for weeks, and you've been howling at me for weeks, and it's like, wait a minute, that just happened.
Am I going mad?
And that's why I really like the film, because there are moments when you're like, what the fuck is going on?
You're crazy.
There's gaslighting in the film. Perfect.
It's crazy.
In the Lighthouse. But there's one scene we haven't talked about.
My favorite scene?
We saved it for the end. Let's let Alex go ahead.
Oh, man. They're arguing, and they're drunk. They've been Is that when they've been drinking the lamp fluid, and they're just
No. This was just normal drunk.
The scene opens up with them they have bottles of alcohol and they're just chugging them, and then they start dancing, and then Pattinson's like, he starts talking about like really wanting a steak, and he's like, what do you mean you want a steak? You don't like my cooking? Yeah. I've been making you lobster. Yeah, you don't like these things? And then he's like, no. And then Willem Dafoe gets pissed. He was hurt,
but he's hurt.
He's
first.
like his heart breaks, and then
you can see it. The acting is so goddamn good. You feel for the old man, right, Joe?
Yeah,
but then he
say you like his food.
Yeah, say you're fond of my lobster, but then he stands up and in the weirdest old timey sailor Poseidon-based curses,
fucking awesome.
He goes off on him and he says like, I hope Poseidon comes forward. This is what he looks like, and then he's gonna tentacle you up, and then he's gonna squeeze you until you're blue,
and hexing him and cursing him,
and everyone will forget you, and then he's gonna stab you and explode, and you won't know who you are. The sea won't know who you are, and it just keeps going on and on. It's
like a 5-minute speech,
and then Pattinson's on the ground looking up. He's like, all right, I have it your way. I like your food.
I said, nope.
Just say you like it, man.
It's too fucking late by that point. So note to self, never insult the chef, especially not if you're stranded. Do not get stranded on an island, Joe, with Alex and insult his cooking.
I will.
You're fucked.
Oh, I mean, if we're stranded on an island, you are the cooking, so don't worry about it. You won't be.
Great scene. Worth it almost alone for William Dafoe's acting and the friendship, relationship, bonding, descent into madness that these two experience, whether you are into BSDM at the end or whether you're not, and whether you wanted a little bit more sci-fi, Cthulhu-ish stuff or not. It's still a great story about madness, guys. And seek it out, watch it. Let us know what you think in the comments if you get a hold of it. And that's it. We'll see. Was there anything else?
I think that's...
I'm just so curious why the two guys, they're walking out nonchalantly with all their stuff because they're changing of the guard, right? But, they didn't suffer madness.
Yeah, I thought Will was already stationed there.
No.
It's Patterson that's the new one.
They both came in.
Well, they did, but Willem is stationed there. He's constantly there. So
is he?
Yeah, because he knew about the digging. He's like, let's dig here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he knows all the rations. So he's constantly there, but they switch back and forth with teams, and so it's his island.
That's why he asked him, he's like, what happened to the other guy? He's like, oh, he died. He went mad.
He went crazy. And
okay. Yeah.
So it is a nutty movie.
It is. It is, guys. You can interpret it several different ways. I like movies. You can think about it. You can rewatch it.
I'll watch it again.
It's great.
We'll see.
See you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.